whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Oh, thank you all for joining us on this Wednesday edition of the Nikki Medoro Show, live on YouTube, so it can be actually any day you want it to be when you're listening to me. Thank you to everybody that tuned in yesterday. I know it was a pre-recorded show. I received all of your lovely messages and emails, and I went through the live chat, and I will be having an update later on towards the end of the show on what we did yesterday. My daughter had her first procedure, so we'll be getting into all of that. But pardon me, you'll also be having to deal with, I'm going to give you guys a heads up. All you early birds that are here will understand what's going on. I'm still dealing with this cough. I feel fine. I actually had a really great night's sleep last night. My husband is a Dayquil person. I'm a Robitussin gal, but I was going to bed and he's like, take the NyQuil. It has the sleeping stuff in it. He's a genius. So I had a great night's sleep. But until Kim McAllister gets here to save my butt, if I perhaps start coughing, I might leave the screen because it's not a beautiful thing seeing me. So you might see something like this when you try to hold in a cough so people don't think you have the coronavirus. So I'm taking quick story about yesterday because this one's funny. Actually not. So I have a cough. But it's not bad. I mean, it's not like a coronavirus sounding cough, I don't think. But of course, the minute I go into the hospital yesterday and my daughter's getting her IV put in, I start getting that tickle. And we all know that tickle in the back of your throat. And so you're trying like squelch it down. And I just can't do it. And I'm taking sips of water. And I don't know if this happens to you guys when you have like a coughing attack. You know how it ends for me? I have to have a really big sneeze. Now, again, to remind you, I'm in a hospital, so I'm wearing one of my good masks. And so I have to sneeze inside my mask, which is just gross. I ended up having to go to the bathroom and swapping out masks. But it's just one of those things where you're just trying to keep it down so that you don't start hacking over the place all the time. And yeah, so again, I will give you an update. And thank you to everyone for all your support as my family starts this whole journey of dealing with my daughter's illness. Please, if you can, let's click that thumbs up button. Let's do our back. I've been sleeping on the couch. So those of you who heard my story last time, my husband let me have the bed when I was really sick. Well, I've given him the bed because I have to sit sleeping up and I might as well be on the couch. But anyways, let's do our exercises, shall we? And click that thumbs up button to support the show. And it really helps. YouTube loves the thumbs up. Just click it once as we do every single part of the show. A reminder that I'm waiting for my merchandise to come in. It should be here. The rest of it, I've gotten one thing, but I'm going to create a video and I'm going to do a sort of unboxing for my Patreon members. Everyone's going to see it, so don't worry. But if you want to be there at the beginning and see it and maybe have first dibs on buying it, please consider signing up to be a monthly Patreon subscriber for any amount. You can find the link. I believe you could find it in the show's description on YouTube, but you can also just go to my website, thenikkimedoroshow.com. There's a Patreon link right there. Some of you have been upping your Patreon, your monthly donation subscription, which is amazing because it just sends me the message that we're doing something you enjoy. And I know it's completely different shows when you go from Chip to Mark to me, but supporting all of us is great. And we really do appreciate it. So again, go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. The Patreon link is there. If you could share the links to the YouTube videos that are there with your friends and family and ask them to subscribe, that would be fantabulous and really, really just help us prove that we're doing the right thing and we're doing everything. And of course, the Super Chat is live. And so if you're new to the show, The super chat is somewhat, it's a place where you can donate during the show. And so if there's a comment that you want me to read, there's super stickers and super thanks. And I was listening to Mark's show earlier, and he was talking about how, Google takes a percentage, but it is a really easy way of donating money to the show. And everyone has to take their cut. Free market, people set up things like that. But if you want to donate during the show, just click that dollar symbol right under the live chat box. And I want to already start the show with some big thank yous. Of course, Andreas, who's been a huge supporter of all of our shows, Mark's show, my show, starts us off with a big old $20 for the Nikki Medoro show. I love it. Jim Slayton, my pack says hi to Nugget with $4.99. Where is Nugget? He's somewhere around here. He's been underfoot all day. I'm surprised he's not here. Oh, he's right over there. He's on the other side of my desk. And then Lori, oh, thank you so much for a $20 super sticker. You guys are great. This is a fabulous way to start the show. And it's awesome. And I really appreciate it. You guys have no idea how much it sends me a message that you want me to keep doing this. And that's exactly what I want to do. And of course, you can reach me by email. Some of you reach out through Patreon. Some of you can email me directly. It goes to the same place, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com. And of course, I want to say hi to everybody watching on Facebook, which is another place where you guys can join a community and watch the show. But sharing that YouTube channel is what's really going to help us out. We have a great show coming up. We'll talk politics in just a few moments. A historic vote has been held for the next Democratic leader. We will, of course, we'll get into the Respect for Marriage Act. Now, it's passed the Senate, it's going to the House, and then it'll end up on President Biden's desk. And we're going to discuss, all of these bills, while it is historic that the Senate passed it, and yes, I think it was 12 Republicans, not all of them, but 12 Republicans voted in the Senate for this. Are we becoming less united when you realize that this bill doesn't cover every single American all across the state? It just doesn't give universal protections. And this idea of you can move someplace and lose certain freedoms and rights, I feel like this is a slow erosion of who we are as a country. So we'll discuss that. There's continued, and I know we touched on this before, but there's continued fallout over former President Trump's dinner with that white supremacist a-hole Nick Fuentes. It's pretty bad. Ben Shapiro has called Trump out, which is mind-boggling. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling Trump out. So I do not think Trump is going to be a major contender if this sort of behavior and reaction to him continues. Ron DeSantis, who, of course, many are thinking is going to run in 2024, he's out with his second book. I never read the first one. I have no desire to, but he's out with a memoir. And we'll talk about this because while the definition of a memoir is written in the first person about an important time in your life, don't you think that you want to wait a little bit? He's my age. He's 44 years old. He seems older. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm exhausted by him. But Ron DeSantis is writing a memoir. And so we'll get into, is this just to get him on the morning shows and the talk shows to talk about his book and get that FaceTime, which seems obvious to me. He's going to run. He's going to challenge Trump or whoever else wants to run for president. President Ron DeSantis? I can't handle it. We'll also touch a little bit on the failure that some lawmakers see of ever getting an assault weapons ban passed again. This, of course, in the shadow of that gun violence at that family game night. It was a Monopoly game, and a gun's brought out. So it just seems that this country can't get it together regarding our weapon of choice. Now, we'll also talk about real estate. In the fight over prime real estate, that oceanfront property, the ocean is always going to win. And the reason I'm bringing this up is if you didn't hear what was happening in Santa Cruz, as the ocean is slowly eroding a very popular stretch of roadway out in Santa Cruz. Also, the rich, they are hoarding. I'm going to show you the picture later on. They're hoarding prime real estate and just leaving it vacant. And the reasons why they're leaving it vacant will probably piss you off. Unless you have a ton of money and you've done this, it just seems like It must be nice, right? It must be nice to have that much money. And which city outside of California has residents who are eyeing Sacramento? Now, Sacramento, when I was growing up and before, I own a house in Sacramento that we rent out. It's our first home. I don't own a home here in the Bay Area. But I remember Sacramento was the place to go. It was affordable in relative terms. And so a lot of people were snatching up homes. I remember, and I guess I was still in college when the whole marijuana grow operations, a lot of people were buying cheap homes in Sacramento to grow pot. Well, now pot's legal. People aren't doing that anymore. But a lot of people from other cities outside of California continue to eye Sacramento, which is making it a hell of a lot less affordable for the rest of us. How many of you saw Will Smith's interview with Trevor Noah on The Daily Show? So we're going to get into that. We'll play a couple clips. Of course, the right is vilifying Will Smith. They're saying he's getting a pass because he's black, because of course they have to bring in color to the whole entire thing. I wasn't able to touch on this before, but PETA is pissed at the National Dog Show because a Frenchie won. How many of you have Frenchies? I know people with Frenchies. We were this close to considering one, although it wasn't truly serious. They do have a lot of health problems. And so the National Dog Show was really upset about it. And so we'll get into that later on this morning. Let's welcome Miss Kim McAllister to the news.
Hi.
Hello, my friend. Hello. So I was just kind of teasing our show, and I was telling people before we got you on that I'm still dealing with this cough. And so I was worried that until you got here, I might have to
Oh
have
no.
no, I didn't have an attack though, but I said that
Okay.
I was going to throw up something like this. If it happens, I'm going to throw up something like if I'm coughing and I just need to like
That's
back
funny.
out for a little bit, that's where I'm going just in case that happens. But yeah, we're feeling pretty good. And so let's get into a little bit of politics now that Kim's here. So Kim,
Yeah.
there was a historic vote. The Democrats have picked Hakeem Jeffries to head the party next year.
Mhm.
And this is a huge generational shift. Obviously, you have 20 years under Nancy Pelosi, but Jeffries is the first Black figure to lead either party in Congress in the nation's history. That's crazy. I mean,
I
I'm
know.
so happy to see it, obviously. But of course, whenever we hit these milestones, I'm like, really? Never? Never.
I was reading that he follows Nancy Pelosi, who was the first woman to be the party leader, the House
Yeah.
Speaker.
Yeah.
So, you have back-to-back,
Mm-hmm.
historic figures. I wish him nothing but success. He becomes the minority leader because, of course, the
Of course.
Republicans will be in control. If the Democrats were in control, he would be House Speaker,
House
but he's
Speaker, right?
minority leader. And so, let's hope that Nancy Pelosi is able to work with him and, show him how it's done. Because
Oh, yeah.
one thing you can say, whether you like her politically or not, is that she knew how to get that job done, is that she knew how
How
to
to get
get
the
people in
votes.
line, how to get
Mm-hmm.
people to vote how she wanted. And so, let's hope that she passes on all of her tips and tricks and
Oh, she
secrets
will.
for how to do things. One thing I do worry about, and I was talking to Jeremy B. White about it on the Mark Thompson show earlier, is, when you have a Californian, a San Franciscan,
Mm-hmm.
in the top spot as the Speaker of the House, it often means that California, the Bay Area, San Francisco in particular, is going to get more, right? Our needs are going to be met because our person's at the top, right? Our
But
concerns
do you think
are
that was
the most
actually
important.
happening?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If there was money to be had, California got a big chunk of it. Nancy saw to that. And so does the fact that Nancy is now no longer in that top spot, and that I believe Mr. Jeffries is from New York, right?
Yes.
And
Yes,
now
I
will
do
New
believe he
York's
is.
needs
Yeah.
supersede California's needs? I don't know. We'll keep our eye on it.
I mean, two major cities
Mhm.
that have played nicely in the past. I mean, each coast, right? But that'll be very interesting to see. Now, like you mentioned, he'll be the minority leader because we don't have the majority for him to be House Speaker. But isn't it saying something that when glass ceilings are broken, It is the Democratic Party. And I'm not trying to do this us versus them type of thing, but true diversity, a true reflection of a Congress that reflects the country, seems to be seen all the time. Not all the time, I can't speak in absolutes, but a lot of the time from the Democratic Party. Get it together, Republicans. Herschel Walker is not enough. If he, wins, is
Well,
not enough for them to say that we're
do-
diverse and we're breaking glass ceilings.
Do you
Please.
see the GOP in a place where they ever would have let Herschel Walker do anything more than just be a token person of color, where they
No.
would have actually put him in a leadership position?
No.
No,
It would
because
have
then
never
there's
happened.
no respect there. I mean, and I don't have a lot of respect for Herschel Walker either, as far as politically, but I don't see the Republicans ever really electing a person of color to be the leader of their party.
Oh God,
Maybe
no.
I'm wrong.
Who? I mean, Tim Scott. Tim Scott would be the Senate.
I would love to be
But
proven wrong. I really would.
yeah, I would too. In all honesty, I mean, it's not as if we don't want diversity in the Republican Party. We just don't see that being genuine. Does that sound? I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to take something away from people like Tim Scott and others who are of color and are Republican, but it does seem that when you look at the numbers, it's oftentimes on the Democratic side. Katie Lynch writes in, there's no doubt that Nancy will be working behind the scenes with Jeffries. One article even referred to her new position as Speaker Emerita. Yeah, but she's also in her 80s. I think you're right. And I think that's honestly, I feel better knowing that. I want someone with the experience and the pull to help the person that's going to be taking that position. So I don't see anything wrong with it, as long as Hakeem Jeffries is able to make his own stamp on that position. And I think that hopefully that'll happen. I really do. Tim Scott is in the Senate. Yeah, I did say the Senate. I was just kind of comparing just overall in Congress, the people of color, the people of diversity, transgender, LGBTQ, those sorts of things often happen on the Democratic Party side than the Republican. I could see Herschel Walker on the Armed Services Committee. General, did you know a werewolf can kill a vampire? Yeah, I know it's a joke, but I mean, think about it. Think about it. Think how close he could be to being that person. It's insane. The Senate also yesterday approved legislation to codify protections for lawful same-sex and interracial marriages. It's called the Respect for Marriage Act. I'm happy this happened. Okay. I really am. I'm not saying that I didn't want it to pass, but there's exemptions. We're not united in this. So there's religious exemptions, which were necessary to get Republicans on board. And it would not require states to allow same-sex marriage if the Obergefell is struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court. It would only force states and the federal government to recognize marriages conducted in states where they're legal. So again, it's kind of leaving it up to the states. The legislation comes, obviously, as we've been seeing a rise in hate against the LGBTQ community. And then we could bring Ron DeSantis right in it with his Don't Say Gay bill. I mean, that's going to be a real contrast if and when he runs for president, right? We're trying to protect same-sex marriage, interracial marriage, and you have a potential candidate for president of the United States that wants to leave someone's identity that I guess they don't agree with or whatever out of the classroom and make them be silent about who they are. I still can't believe that I can't believe that's happening in Florida. I can't believe Floridians are allowing that to happen and supported somebody like Ron DeSantis so strongly on it. But this is a step in the right direction. Now, obviously, it's only been 7 years since the Supreme Court decision legalizing same-sex marriage. 7 years. So it's not a long time, and it could be at risk. So I'm happy that the Respect for Marriage Act looks to be heading. It has to go through the House and then back to President Biden's desk. But I hope that it does get passed. Nick writes in, SCOTUS has already stated they're going after Obergefell, so the Respect for Marriage Act will be ineffectual in those states. Exactly. So how are we the United States of America? I mean, how are we? How can you say that we're so united when a move for a job or family or some other life situation could mean you lose fundamental rights? that your marriage isn't recognized by the state that you live in. I mean, how are we staying united as a country when we can't do something about that? I don't know. I'm frustrated that it's gotten to this. I wish there was a point where things that had been passed and had been law for so long were protected and that politics wouldn't continue to play a role, but it does. Eric Kennedy, is Clarence Thomas from a state that will still recognize his marriage if they overturn Loving? Where does he live? This is a good trivia question. I don't know where Clarence Thomas lives. I don't know what state he lives in. Anybody in the chat room now? This is a great trivia question that I would completely fail. States' rights cannot supersede federal mandates. Well, this is what the bill says. Thomas will exempt himself. Yeah, Nick. I mean, I get that. It could be that it will be a carve out. You know, it'll be a carve out because there's somebody sitting on the U.S. Supreme Court that is in an interracial marriage. We're just going to have to see how it plays out. But it really sits terribly in my stomach and in my heart that there's American citizens who have different rights because they live in different states. It's ridiculous.
I found out he was born in Georgia, but I don't know where he lives now.
Okay. I mean, I would assume he'd have to be somewhere on the East Coast, but former President Trump, is apparently going to increase screening, which is great to know that he's going to increase screening at Mar-a-Lago, given all the classified documents he's stolen. But apparently after that dinner with Nick Fuentes, which is that far-right white supremacist that wants to burn women alive, the fallout continues from that. They say they're increasing its vetting protocols. That's what their campaign is saying. A senior campaign official, I love this. Sources say a senior campaign official will be present with Trump at all times. So a man that some people want to be president once again needs a chaperone at all times because he can't be trusted to understand who is in the room with him. It blows my mind. And while it seemed to be crickets right after, there are definitely Republicans coming out. I'll play you some sound right now. Make sure I have this up. Okay, so here's Mitt Romney weighing in on that Trump dinner.
I think it's disgusting to invite people like that to meet with a former president of the United States. I think it's been clear that there's no bottom to the degree to which President Trump will degrade himself and the nation.
Should he apologize? Do you think that more Republicans...
Oh, he doesn't. He never sees anything wrong in anything he does. So this is characteristic of his approach, which is either say it was a joke or say he didn't know what was happening. But that doesn't fly. Obviously, this is something which degrades him, frankly, to do what he's done, and it is something which diminishes the country as well. It's very unfortunate.
That's to say the least. I mean, for Trump to say he didn't know who Nick Fuentes was is ridiculous.
Right.
And you shouldn't have somebody at Mar-a-Lago meeting the president of the United States if you don't know who the hell that person is. Former president of the United States, I should say. But still, you're at Mar-a-Lago. You don't know who this person is. Again, classified documents, where are they? It's just... For someone that ran in 2016 on her emails and the server, people seem to be turning a blind eye to this nonsense coming from the former president.
And I'm sorry, but if you don't know who you're inviting to dinner, then what else don't you know?
Like everything. He doesn't know anything.
So then are you mentally in a place to be the president if you don't even know who you're dining with?
He never was in the first place. Here's sad turtle Mitch McConnell also weighing in on the dinner.
First, let me just say that there is no room in the Republican Party for anti-Semitism or white supremacy. And anyone meeting with people advocating that point of view, in my judgment, are highly unlikely to ever be elected president of the United States.
Well, that's not surprising. Mitch McConnell is not a Trump supporter anymore. He is not using, remember, we talked about this, any of the campaign money to help Trump or any of the people that he's supporting, which I think is smart, but it's a bit rich, Mitch, for you to come out now and saying this. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's agreed with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy that Nick Fuentes has no place His views have no place in the Republican Party. My ass, MTG. But anyways, she said she spoke with Trump and talked with people on his staff after the news of the dinner broke. She says President Trump had no idea Nick Fuentes was even coming. So that's unfortunate. She said Trump's team is making big changes over who can come in and the vetting process, which I think is smart. Why wasn't that done before? That should be news. It should be news that they didn't have a vetting process to meet a former president at a location where we know there are classified documents. I don't even understand why this is not a bigger story. She did say any former president should have that in place, which is smart. Green says that knowing what she knows now about Nick Fuentes, she would not have spoken at his conference, which she was vilified for. But she says she doesn't regret getting her message to that audience because it was young Republicans. I think it was the Young Republicans Club or something like that. She says, I don't regret talking to the kids that were there because I don't understand why they follow him. But would I have gone to the event? No. I'm worried about kids that would follow him, and that's a shame. But no, I don't want to have anything to do with him.
Well,
I'm wondering. Yeah.
Look it up and have a little thought process before you show up somewhere. Where am I going to speak? Who am I speaking for?
Yep.
On behalf of? God.
It seems like the bare minimum, right? I mean, it seems like the bare minimum of what you should do. And then across the pond, I just have to throw this in because I know, Kim McAllister, you love the Royals. You like watching The Crown. Did you hear this headline?
All of them. As a matter of fact, I'm still upset that Charles and Camilla are king and queen consorts.
And I
think they should have been passed right over and gone to William and Kate.
Well, here's some drama.
You know how badly they treated Princess Diana. It's outrageous.
You hear the anger in her voice, right, people? I love it. Well, Queen Elizabeth II, lady in waiting, has resigned after repeatedly questioning a Black British charity founder on her background. So the woman was, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, Ngozi Fulani of Sister Space, which is a charity that supports women of African and Caribbean heritage in the United Kingdom and who have faced domestic and sexual abuse. Well, she was invited to Buckingham Palace yesterday with about 300 other guests for a reception hosted by the Queen Consort Camilla that was meant to raise awareness about the violence against women and girls. Well, Fulani apparently shared details of her encounter with Lady Susan Hussey, Hussey. I don't know if it's Hussey or Hussey. Let's just call her Susan Hussey. Lady Susan Hussey on her Twitter account, stating that 10 minutes after her arrival, Hussey moved my hair to see my name badge and demanded to know where she was from. When Fulani said she and her charity were based in the UK, Hussey, who is Prince William's godmother, by the way, asked Fulani's nationality, which the charity founder responded was British. According to Fulani, Hussey then asked, no, but where do you really come from? Where do your people come from? Fulani repeated she was born in and is of British nationality. Oh, I can see I'm going to have a challenge getting you to say where you're from, Hussey allegedly said. When did you first come here? She said, lady, I'm a British national. My parents came here in the 50s. Fulani and Hussey then interrupted her and called her Caribbean. No, lady, Fulani responded. I am of African heritage, Caribbean descent, and British nationality. Fulani said the encounter with Hussey was traumatizing. Hussey's 83 years old. She was Queen Elizabeth's lady in waiting for more than 60 years. And after her death, she was given an honorary role as one of 3 ladies of the household to help King Philip at formal occasions.
Can you just hear that?
You can totally hear that conversation.
Where are you really from? Like, where are your people from? You know?
I should have had us acted out. I should have had you acted out. That would have been so funny.
No, really. No, I can see you're going to be a challenge.
It is such a racist conversation that we've heard before. No, where are you from? Well, I was born and raised in America. No, where are you really from? Where the hell are you from? It's
clearly you're not white. Are you going to make me say it? Yes.
Yeah, so she resigned. I'm sure they were like, you need to get the hell out. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. So all right, we're gonna take a quick break for news. We'll also need to get into probably presidential candidate Ron DeSantis. He is he's coming out with a book. It's a memoir. It's going to be called The Courage to Be Free, which is laughable. Florida's blueprint for America's revival. Okay, so this is the memoir. We'll get into it a little bit. And here's my question you guys can ponder in the chat room. I mean, at what age should you write your memoir? Now, obviously, if you're someone that had something traumatizing as a kid and it's like, like an Elizabeth Smart or something like that, I can understand writing a book about that. But a memoir for Ron DeSantis, I think it might be a bit too soon, but you tell me. We'll also get into that family game night that turned violent. And there was an op-ed that was looking at what this sort of incident, using a gun during a game of Monopoly, can tell us about other shootings that happen in America. And it's pretty freaking sad. We'll get into real estate, not just here, but across the country. But in Southern California, you're rich when you can buy prime real estate and do absolutely nothing with it. I'll have a picture that may blow you away. We'll also touch a bit on Will Smith's interview on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. And you tell me whether or not you think he's really getting a pass. He's in a new movie. Should people watch this movie? Will you go see this movie? Should the people behind the movie be punished simply because of the slap that happened at the Oscars? And what should Will Smith be doing? We'll hear from some right-wingers like Megyn Kelly, because she thinks that, of course, the liberal left is giving Will Smith a pass. That and so much more coming up right after news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Christine McVie of Fleetwood Mac has died. She was 79 years old. In a statement, her family said she passed away peacefully this morning after a short illness. She joined Fleetwood Mac as a permanent member in 1971 and served as a main songwriter and lead vocalist as well. Again, Christine McVie of Fleetwood Mac has died at the age of 79. Smaller interest rate hikes may be on the way, that according to the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, who spoke to the Brookings Institution. The Fed has been steadily raising interest rates this year in a bid to fight soaring inflation. The House passing a measure that gives rail workers 7 days of paid sick leave. They did so in a separate vote as they took up the issue of averting a national rail strike. The overall bill passed with bipartisan support. The vote on sick leave, though, was much closer. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer ordering flags be lowered to honor the victims of the deadly shooting at Oxford High School. Today is the 1-year anniversary of that tragedy. It claimed 4 lives and injured 7 other people. The shooter was 15 at the time and charged as an adult. Chinese police moving very quickly to clamp down on protests over the country's tough zero COVID policy. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas says the Biden administration needs to support those calling for greater democracy and freedom. China has been hit by a wave of COVID cases. In California, the safe driving classes for folks 65 and older will continue to be offered by the CHP. The Highway Patrol says the new Keeping Everyone Safe grant from the state's Office of Traffic Safety will allow them to continue to provide these free classes. I wonder if you think it's offensive to tell people 65 and older that they need special driving classes. The CHP says this 2-hour class is a way for seniors to educate themselves, evaluate their driving abilities, and improve their driving skills. According to the CHP, the Age Well, Drive Smart classes emphasize that a driver's performance determines their fitness to drive, not their age.
I like that. I mean, there needs to be. It makes sense. Everybody knows that as you age, and this isn't an insult, this is just what happens, right? Your reflexes slow down, your sight may start going. And if you're a good driver, then you'll be able to either take the class, or I think they should keep taking tests, obviously, to make sure that you're okay behind the wheel. I mean, how many times do we have those stories, Kim, where, and I'm not saying it's always someone that's a senior citizen or elderly, but they mistake the gas and the brake and they go through a glass pane window or they get into an accident.
Sure.
And these things can happen. And it's not knocking them, but Randy thinks 65 is too young to start administering age.
I think
Why?
that's where I fall. With 65, a 65-year-old person is,
I don't
I mean,
know. I'm just
technically,
saying.
I know you're of retirement age, but I'm thinking when people hit maybe in their 80s, and that's
No.
when maybe your
No,
sight starts
no.
going, you're blowing through stop signs, what have you. 65, that's a little
What are
young
you
to start.
afraid of at 65? If you're such a
Well,
good driver, why
no,
not?
but it's too young to start having to take classes, I think.
Why? I
Maybe,
mean,
I don't know.
why not? What's your fear? I mean, I would only say that if I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to pass it. If I was, okay. And now, obviously, they have to make it so it's not cost prohibitive or anything like that. Everyone's saying 65 is too young. I understand what you're saying, but as I've gotten older, and my friends' parents have gotten older, I see the difference in in health and stamina between people that maybe have health issues or didn't take care of themselves and others. As people get older, in my opinion, there can be a huge difference between what 80 looks like for one person versus another person, or even 65. I know some 65-year-olds that look and walk and act like they're 80. And I know some 80-year-olds that move and act and walk around like they're 65.
Right.
So there's a huge gap there depending on your past health, which could be out of your control. Maybe you've had accidents, things like that, or you haven't taken care of yourself. And
Yeah.
so all of these things, not necessarily having to do with driving, but 65, you're about to retire. If that's retirement age, why not make that just the universal age for the classes?
I agree with you. Eric Kennedy does too. I'll show you that text in a moment. But first, I think I agree with Nick, who says proficiency tests should be administered across the board for anything with the
Mhm.
potential to kill another person. So maybe it shouldn't be age related per se, because, there's some 30 and 40-year-old people who
Good
drive
point.
like a-holes as well. But
Yeah.
Eric says it's more of a personal thing, not age related. He agrees with you. Some people age much better than others.
And you know what? I would actually have no problem. How about this? Every 5 or 10 years, everyone has to do it. You just
Yeah.
have to take another test. And if you knew that you had to take the test, maybe you would stay up on all the things you're supposed to know and
Yeah.
do, because driving is not a right. It's a privilege, and you should, be capable of doing it. It's a waste of money. We don't have to do tests on 65-year-olds, 70 to 75 KF. I mean, I think we could just, agree to disagree on the age. I think they chose 65 probably because of the whole retirement age and things like that. Oh, Candy. You can get a discount on insurance. That could be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, Jess Martinez says every 3 years. Think something's happening every 3 years. Maybe. I don't know. That's a good debate. I don't know. I don't know what the answer.
Anyway, the news is sponsored by, you got it, tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. So if you need help with those good old taxes coming around again, give Steve a call, 888-TAX-STEAL. He's also online, MoskowitzLLP.com. You should check out the site because there's a fancy little picture. It's a very slick website. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Absolutely. Go check Steve out, and hopefully he'll be joining us later on this hour. All right, continue to send in those texts. Let's give some love, shall we? I am loving all the love we're getting in the live chat today. Let's see. Andreas shooting us with another $20. What? And another $10 too. It's a pleasure to support you. Let's all meet at a bar for a drink. We're family.
Yeah, that's
Where
nice.
do you, I know, Andreas, you are so sweet. We should meet at a bar or something. I mean, I know we don't all live in the same kind of area, but that's amazing. All right. Oh, look. Nora Storms with $2 in the super chat. Hi, Aunt Nikki. She actually is my niece. Hi, Nora. She's my sis. She's the daughter of my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, who lives in Kentucky. So hello to my Kentucky family. I love you, Nora. Thanks for tuning in. CR with a $20 in the live chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's give shout outs to everybody that's been donating. Lori with a $20 super sticker. Jim Slayton sending $4.99 and a hello to my nugget. And
So
Andreas
nice.
again starting off the show with $20. I love
That's
you
cute,
guys.
Lori.
I love all of you. You
Yeah.
guys are amazing. And thank you so much, honestly, for supporting the show.
Oh,
All
you
right.
know what? You've got another family member in the chat as well, Phoebe.
Oh, that's her sister. That's her younger
Yeah.
sister, Phoebe Beebe. Hi,
That's so
Phoebe.
sweet. They're listening to their auntie.
See,
That's so cute.
and they're young too. So there you go. You can let us know in the chat, guys, how weather is in Kentucky, because we're having a big storm. I heard Spencer Christian earlier talking about it's a number 2 on the storm scale. But later on this morning, we'll get into real estate, and there is a city that is quite cold that's keeping their eye on Sacramento for some real estate, and I don't blame them at all. Okay, so Kim, Ron DeSantis probably going to run for president. Somebody in the live chat is saying you usually write a memoir if you're about to run for president, which
That's right.
Okay, maybe. But he is set to publish a memoir next year, obviously increasing speculation that he's going to run. It's called, now this is the title is what gets to me. The Courage to Be Free, Florida's Blueprint for America's Revival. The courage to be free? To be free? Are you serious? This from the guy that is telling kids you can't talk about your sexuality in the classroom. We don't want you teaching these sorts of things. Where's the freedom in being who you are and using the names, the pronouns that you want? I just think it's laughable. Apparently, according to sources, DeSantis's memoir will touch on a firsthand account from the blue-collar boy who grew up to take on Disney and Dr. Fauci. I don't know. I think it might be a bit young. I would have done a memoir. If I was him, I would have waited until maybe I ran for president. But as many people are saying, I love this one. Hold on. I got to just write freedom to be an asshat. Thank you, Nick. Using one of my favorite words. I mean, maybe his run for president, has he done enough besides kind of be a troll? And you guys let me know in the comments. I mean, has DeSantis done enough to write a memoir? Because, I mean, everyone went through COVID. What is unique about Ron DeSantis, except that he went against COVID restrictions? I don't know. It blows my mind that someone like that thinks that they have enough in their own personal history to be able to fill a memoir. So you guys let me know in the comments, because I'm going to bring on someone that, maybe he should start working on his memoir. Our friend and exclusive founding sponsor, Steve Moskowitz, who we have learned a lot about you, Steve, over the past several weeks that we've been hosting the show. About you drove a taxi cab. I mean, you're an intelligent guy. You have so many things that I'm sure can fill up all kinds of memoirs, but you're focused on helping people out of tax problems.
That's right. And helping out of tax problems and tax planning. And basically there's 3 different types. The type that most people engage in, which is absolutely nothing, and then they complain they're paying too much in taxes.
Yes.
Those that do tax planning right now, the end of the year. I mean, tomorrow's December.
I know. So, my God.
And that's, helpful. Maybe you save some taxes, and we do that for clients. But also what we really like to do is year-round tax planning, because, the tax return, that's what people focus on, the tax return, the tax return. The tax return should only be a mere summarization of a year's worth of tax planning. And I say to the clients, do you make more or less than Apple Computer? And everybody laughs, I make less than Apple Computer. But I say, but you pay more tax. Mom and Pop on the corner pay more taxes than Apple. So the bottom line is, that's why and that's why I became an attorney, to be a tax attorney and do tax planning, along with other things like ERC. I was talking to a CPA yesterday. The guy just boggled me. You know how we've been talking about, the easy way where you can get up to $26,000 per employee that qualifies if your gross revenue went down a certain amount. And I was talking to the CPA, and he fessed up to me that he only does the easy way, the math. And I said, well, why don't you know about it? Why don't you do the other one? He says, it's too much work. And I said, oh my God, it's too much work for you. So you're letting people leave God knows how much money on the table because it's too much work.
That's
just
awful.
boggled me. It's so like, you do what you want with your own money, but this is a client's money, and it's too much work for him. But you know what? I think it's what a lot of the guys are doing, because so many people are telling, oh, my CPA told me this or that. And they only do the math test. And, Nikki, the math test is easy. And that's where we start too, because if we get to the money the easy way, no reason doing it the hard way. But if the math test doesn't work, then the law provided for 2 grounds here. So we talk with you, and we don't care how much work it is. The only thing we care about is getting the best possible deal for the client within the bounds of the law.
Exactly. And honestly, Steve, I think that the fact that you're willing to put in the work and that other guy isn't just is a testament to what you can bring people if they give you a call because you're willing to put in the work and you're not one of these fly by night places where they'll give out all the ERC and then you call them up afterwards and they're gone. So give Steve a call. He's been doing this for decades. He is the man who knows his stuff. 888 tax deal, 888 tax deal, or MoskowitzLLP.com. That's MoskowItzLLP.com.
I still look forward to that every time.
I look forward to it too.
I
Thanks, guys.
have an issue with Station X.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is this for
And
Steve or is this for?
It's for Steve. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Steve.
But I just want to say that I have kind of a fantasy
Ooh.
of a phone call being made, and it goes like this. Station X. This is tax attorney Steve Moskowitz calling on behalf of Kim McAllister. I mean, like, I want the full weight of the Steve Moskowitz name behind it to resolve my problem. You see
And
what
I
I'm
know
saying?
who to call too if I was.
There you go.
There you
I
go.
love it.
And they would listen to me too.
Oh, yes, they would. They would definitely pick up your phone call. Well, pick up your phone call. Give Steve a call. Steve, we always appreciate you coming on. Thank you for being a huge supporter of the show. We love you.
So much.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. So this is Steve Moskowitz on behalf of Kim McAllister. I love that.
Oh,
Just
that's
the mere thought
funny.
of it like gives me the goosebumps.
Oh, that is funny. Well, I mean, Steve will do it for you. So make sure you let him know because he's the guy.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the chat room because we were talking about Ron DeSantis and this memoir that he has coming out. And again, the memoir is called The Courage to Be Free, Florida's Blueprint for America's Revival. Now, again, it was kind of weird. I mean, if you think about it, kind of this two different idea of how to respond to COVID from coast to coast, right? There was the California way where we did shut down and there's been a lot of criticism that we shut down schools for too long and those sorts of things. And then there was a Florida way of doing it, right? Where they did it for a little bit, but not really. And then they just opened everything up and you do you kind of thing. And then he takes on Disney over the LGBTQ. And then he's taken on the cruise line industry for wanting to test people to come on board. I mean, what would you rather have is going to be the question for Americans if and when Ron DeSantis decides to run for president. And for him to run on this idea that he's freedom really begs the question of what does freedom look like to you? Is freedom, I can't talk about who I am. I can't talk about who I love. I can't talk about what my family looks like. I can't talk about my health. I can't worry about whether or not I'm going to get shot at a Walmart if I'm going Christmas shopping. Is that freedom to you? Or is freedom like, well, good luck, kiss, kiss, hug, hug, and I hope you don't die.
Because want to be ya.
If you just take COVID, for instance, he did. And I think he's made it abundantly clear, and maybe it works for him and those that support him, but he took the money aspect of it. Our economy is too important for us to shut down any longer because you're worried about what's going to happen to your, immunocompromised relative or child or grandma or whatever. I mean, that's the truth. If you want to put it bluntly, he's putting dollar signs over human lives. And Newsom, when presented with the same scenario, chose human lives. And some people say, well, you weren't taking into account the mental aspect of the shutdown and keeping kids out of school. And you know what? It's a valid argument. But when you're the one that has to make the decision, and I said this during the whole time, when it's between human lives or the economy, and you have to choose, which one do you choose? And I wouldn't want to be in charge of the decision. I wouldn't want to be in charge of people losing their livelihoods, losing their businesses. That's why we also supported things like PPP and trying to get money as quickly as possible, even though there was a ton of fraud that came from it, right? And then there was the whole collapsing of the EDD here in California. I'm not saying California did it right, but for DeSantis to think that he's going to be the candidate for freedom, whose freedom? Your freedom, apparently. Your freedom to tell me how I should be feeling. And I just don't like it. I mean, there was even an article, and I don't have it up, I apologize, but the school boards that, kind of backed DeSantis or DeSantis was supporting, they're already starting to follow. Here it is. DeSantis-backed school boards begin ousting Florida educators. New board members in 2 GOP-leaning counties sacked their school superintendents over the span of a week. They were spurred. It was spurred by how the superintendents carried out local policies like efforts to support the rights of parents. Which parents? That's a big question. An issue inflamed by schools imposing student mask mandates last fall. So that's always, and I always ask that question. When people are like, what about the rights of parents? Okay, well, what if I'm a parent in the same school district and I support what those superintendents were saying? Why does your opinion matter more than my opinion? Yeah. And then it comes down to somebody needs to make a decision about the rules, and there are consequences because of that. Here in California, though, all those kind of parent first, which was the kind of phrase that they would always use, was more of the kind of Trumpian kind of, the masks, the plandemic, all that kind of conspiracy surrounding COVID. They did not get their positions. They were not popular, and they didn't really win. And so that's saying something here. In Florida, I don't know. Oh, wait. DeSantis appointed an anti-vaxxer as his surgeon general. He's an idiot. Well, yes. Yeah, fire the teachers during a teacher shortage. Yeah, go ahead. And that's the thing. People that are praising Florida, go ahead. Look at how their schools are doing. Look at their teacher shortage. You can't just pick someone up off the street to do that job. Florida deaths per 100,000, 386. California deaths per 100,000, 253. I don't know where you're getting these numbers. I don't know. I don't have the latest numbers.
I don't know either. But if that's true, and you have California with such a higher population than Florida, then it shows that the moves that were made during the pandemic made a difference.
Well, and I will even say this, because obviously population matters and all those things. You have to factor for all of those things, and I agree. It's still the message, though, right? It's the message of when there's another public health emergency, who do we listen to? Politicians or public health officials? And when you, Ron DeSantis, think you know better, or are making decisions about people's health and not listening to the health experts, the next time we have an emergency, they're going to look to you, and you might lead them down another deathly path. That's just true. Oh, so Natalie says it was New York Times data. Okay. Florida has 21.7 million people and 83,000 deaths. California has 39 million people and 99,000 deaths.
That's I don't want numbers.
Yeah, I don't want to. Honestly, the numbers is not really what I'm talking about. I think it's the decision making is my point. It's who are you going to listen to? And he was even taking on the cruise line industry, who was saying, stop talking about this. We want people to feel safe coming on our cruise liners. So stop making it and stop taking us on just simply because we want to test people who come on this ship, which I don't know why anybody wouldn't want that to happen after COVID. Like, please. Oh, well, it might keep me off the cruise ship and keep me from spreading whatever virus I have around. Cruise ships were always notorious, though, for spreading flu and norovirus and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So it's not surprising that COVID would be taken on. But again, it comes a question of what leader do you want? And I guess America, if and when he runs, will be deciding that. Yeah. And this is a good point that Michael's making in the chat line. Tourists to Florida may have spread COVID as they went home. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just, it's sad. And, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, 2024 is a ways off. He doesn't even want to talk about running. Absolutely does not want to talk about running. He says, everyone needs to chill out. I just won, another term as governor. And it's true, but we'll see. It seems like the political season never ends. Do we have time for this? I don't know if I can squeeze this in. No, I'm going to save this. Oh no. Well, I wanted to get into the assault weapons ban, and my Matthew McConaughey has come out with a new article in People magazine. Here, I'll show you the cover. I can kind of tease it for you. How about that? Yeah. So Matthew McConaughey is on the cover of People 6 months after Uvalde, and he's basically saying we have to do better for our kids. Now, you'll remember he's from Uvalde. He grew up in Uvalde, Texas in the 70s, riding his bike. This book talks that I have right back here that you guys always laugh at, talks so much about his life growing up in Uvalde and everything that he experienced. And you'll remember that after Uvalde, he went to Washington, D.C. and helped press Congress to pass that gun safety legislation. They're saying it's the first major gun safety legislation in nearly 30 years. And so, 6 months after the tragedy, he's reflecting. So one of the questions that they asked him was, when did you realize you had to do something? Because I imagine being Matthew McConaughey, and being an actor, and how many people say, oh, just stick to acting, shut up and act type of thing. Getting involved in something like this, especially a hot button topic like guns, probably wasn't easy. But he said he was working in his studio the day that the shooting happened, and there was a message from his wife, Camilla, and she says he says that she said it before he could, that we have to go there. He didn't take his kids at first. They met with families informally, just kind of having a conversation. They went to some of the funerals. He also took some of the kids, I guess, in this article to some of the viewings. He said his kids wanted to. They tried to prepare him. One second.
Oh, she's coughing again. So it's a good thing. There's the cat. There's the coughing kitty. I did not know that Matthew McConaughey went to Uvalde, Texas. I know I'm Nikki can tell us how long after the shooting he showed up. But that's interesting. Does Texas have a red flag law? I don't know. But it's a good moment for me to mention red flag laws. Can I do it, Nikki? Is that okay? Yeah, red flag laws. Red flag laws allow people to report that something is going on with someone who has access to a gun, shouldn't have a gun. And so in the state of California, we have a red flag law that say your neighbor, your child, your parent, your grandparent, your coworker, whoever it may be, is acting really strangely, saying some things that gives you pause to think this is not a person who should have a weapon. You can call the police, they'll take the weapon away. I think it's for a period of a matter of weeks while they investigate. Then they can either give the weapon back if they think nothing's wrong, or they can take it away, and they can take it away for longer. So the studies have shown red flag laws really work. As a matter of fact, they prevented a shooting in San Jose. The problem is people don't know that they're in existence. So the more people know about red flag laws, which is why Nikki let me spout on about it, the more people know about it, the more of these mass shootings and domestic violence shootings and name your shooting, the more we can prevent. So please just know that red flag laws are in place in California. I don't know if they're in place in Texas. I would imagine that many of them, many states now have red flag laws, but just know they're out there so that if you have a suspicion, you can take action.
Absolutely. And you were talking, and let's see. I was trying to
Sorry,
see if
I went off on a tangent.
Oh, no. I love that you did, because I was actually hacking along. That's why I had to absolutely remove myself from the screen. So Texans in June were not supportive of a bipartisan gun bill, the one that was passed. And they are unlikely, I'll have to Google it, maybe I'll do it during the break, to pass a red flag law. And here's the argument, Kim, against red flag laws, is because people point to something like Uvalde and say, well, it wouldn't have prevented this, or it wouldn't have prevented that. And it's not the point. Red flag laws are to prevent the ones that don't happen. Like, it prevents it. It's another barrier. It's a tool in the toolbox. Is it going to prevent every single one? Maybe not. Is it going to apply to every single horrific thing that happens? No. But why not have something like this? Because law enforcement, courts, they don't have a crystal ball. This isn't Minority Report, if you remember that movie, where we can predict crimes into the future. No, it's the people that are around you, that work with you, that live with you, that can see there's something going on, and he or she has access to a gun, and maybe just for a little bit, we should take that gun away and make sure everything's okay. That's what we need to do, and we need to empower people. And I'm glad that you mentioned the laws here in California, because it did prevent a shooting in San Jose, and the guy was totally I think it was connected to the VTA, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. There was another case with the VTA, which also had a horrific workplace shooting. And so these are the things we need to keep an eye on. I'll research a little bit about Texas, but when we come back, we will talk about, can we get another assault weapons ban passed? Senator Chris Murphy doesn't think so, that the Senate lacks the votes for it. But then we have something like, and not saying that an assault weapon was used, I don't believe it was an assault weapon, but that family game night that erupted in gunfire. I mean, access to guns leads to crimes like this. And I don't know what, besides red flag laws, is going to prevent these things from happening, because the whole good guy with the gun argument doesn't hold any water. It just doesn't. And I wish it did. I wish, people only brought out guns when it was necessary. I'm not saying that there's no place for guns in society. I'm not saying that at all. We just have an obsession with it. We have glamorized it in this way that is dangerous. And what the NRA and the makers of AR-15s and how they advertise within video games, where you associate a weapon like this with your manhood, that needs to stop. It just does. And I don't know how we get there. I really, really don't. But we'll take a quick break for Kim's news. We'll continue this conversation on the other side of it. I will get into real estate. And I'm going to throw in this other story that I forgot to mention before about how there is now a Texas company, speaking of Texas, that wants to build homes on the moon. And I have a picture of what it may look like.
That's kind of cool.
Isn't that? I mean, it's kind of cool, but we're just going to destroy the damn moon too. Can you imagine looking up at the moon and just seeing like homes? I don't know if we'd be able to see it, but like
the twinkling lights of a neighborhood.
Like Lennar Homes coming soon. If you lived here, you'd be home by now. Like, I don't know how that works, but that's all coming up. Plus, in the live chat, we'll continue to read some of your comments right here on the Nikki Medoro Show on YouTube.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Job openings dropped in October, that according to the Labor Department, which put the number at 10.3 million, slightly below expectations. Bill Clinton testing positive for COVID, the former president taking to Twitter to share the news, noting while he's experiencing some mild symptoms, he's doing fine overall. He also took the opportunity to urge Americans to get vaccinated and boosted. The Uvalde school shooting taking center stage as Texas state lawmakers have started filing bills for the upcoming legislative session. They want panic buttons in schools. They want better signage and lock boxes for law enforcement so they can get keys to buildings. Governor Greg Abbott has allocated more than $17 million to the program. The Supreme Court's approval rating. It's seeing a small rebound after hitting an historic low this summer. A new Marquette Law School poll found 44% of Americans who were asked approve of the high court. That's up 4 percentage points from September. A former First Lady is throwing her support behind Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock. It's Michelle Obama, who has recorded 2 robocalls going out to encourage people to vote for the incumbent Democrat in the runoff election. Meanwhile, Republican candidate Herschel Walker says getting people out to vote is key because he says this election is very important. Michael Vick, remember him? He's set to lead a docuseries about the evolution of Black NFL quarterbacks. It'll feature Vick having conversations with former and current NFL players and coaches, including Patrick Mahomes, Cam Newton, Tony Dungy, I don't know if I said that right, and Andy Reid. No word on when that docuseries will be released.
It's Dungy.
Okay, I knew I was saying it wrong. Sorry, guys.
Close.
It's a sports story. See, I should never even put those in there. A new study out of UC Davis suggests online learning during COVID was detrimental to teens. The study reveals virtual learning during the 2020-2021 school year caused undue stress. According to the UC Davis study, teens who attended school online only and teens identifying as transgender and gender non-conforming were especially impacted. Researchers also suggest teens who were able to attend school in person or in a hybrid model had more of a sense of being included in their social groups. The study also reveals social media, even at high rates of use, failed to compensate for real in-person social connections found at school. And we knew that was the case, but it's kind of that balance that, social stuff isn't really much if you get so sick that you can't function. So what do you do?
Exactly. Yeah. And I love that you brought this story up because I was just reading another story and it was really sad. And there's been a lot of them. And it was up in, I want to say Rockland, kind of that area, I believe it was. A family in December of 2020, so right at the peak of COVID, found their son who'd never really done drugs before, dead at his desk. And he had ordered some pills. He thought they were Percocet, and it was fentanyl. We've heard the story over and over again.
Yeah.
But another thing that came from this is because kids were spending so much time online, because they weren't able to have the social aspects of school, they were ordering all of this stuff. They were ordering drugs. They were doing some of this, kind of self-harming behavior, which is another thing you have to keep in mind. And I'm not trying to minimize that, especially when we're debating things like, being opened or closed or masks or no masks. It's a tough decision to weigh, but you're right, Kim. What do you think the detriment would have been to kids if they went to school and we could always play Monday morning quarterback of what happened in the numbers, but their classmates are dying, or you don't even know, but maybe somebody's father died because they got COVID because the kid came home with it. You just don't know. And when you don't know, you have to err on one side. And that was a very tough decision for people to make. I just feel like people like DeSantis were like, we're not going to take away your rights, which was the wrong thing to say. I wish they would have just been honest and been like, look, we understand, but there are lives at risk. And so when I'm faced with this decision, I'm going to err on trying to keep you safe. And I think, by putting in that kind of political spin, it really hurt us as a country more than it needed to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Speaking of COVID and decisions, here's another one. There's a group of Republican governors calling on Congress to end the Biden administration's COVID vaccine mandate for the military. More than 21 governors sent a joint letter to congressional leadership demanding that Congress do away with the mandate through the upcoming defense spending bill or through standalone legislation. The governors argue the mandate impacts the nation's defense capabilities as thousands of service members have been discharged because they didn't want to take the vaccine. Letter comes as 13 Republican senators are pushing Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to refuse to advance the defense spending bill if there's no vote to do away with that vaccine mandate.
Interesting. What do you think about that? I mean, we need military, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's the commander in chief. I don't know they have to take so many other vaccines. This again has to do with politics, I think, more than anything else.
It does.
I mean,
yeah, you're right.
When were they pushing back before on taking vaccines? And we know the history of vaccines in the military and trials and things like that. So again, I think that there's politics involved in this more than anything else.
As my husband was a Marine, and he talks about when he had to go through the vaccine line, they vaccinate you for things that you weren't vaccinated in childhood. And they said you just stick out your arm. They have this like vaccine gun almost that they just go down the line, boom, 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 boom. And there's no choice given, really.
Exactly. That's what Eric was saying too. When you're in the military, you get vaccinated for whatever they tell you.
Right.
That's part of the job. Yeah. So the only reason for this pushback is politics, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
One more story for you.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen this. The Sylvester Stallone-led series Tulsa King.
Ooh, no, and I'm usually up on stuff. I don't know this one.
It's apparently good enough to be renewed for a second season. It made its debut on the Paramount Network, drawing 3.7 million viewers, and it was created by Tyler Sheridan, the guy who created the hit show Yellowstone.
Oh, okay.
So Stallone in the show is a mafia capo, released from prison, banished to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and once he's there, his character decides to create a crime empire of his own. So that's Tulsa King. It's got a second season, and there you go. And this report
alone. All right, there
sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for everybody, individuals and businesses. It doesn't matter. If you need help with your taxes, call Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL. He's online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
All right. Thanks for joining us for hour 2 of the Nikki Medoro Show live on YouTube. So we were talking about guns, and I know a lot of you are still debating the whole COVID thing in the chat. And Kim had brought up, kind of the restrictions in schools and things like that. I feel like this all plays under the umbrella of what is most important to us as a society. right? Freedom to do whatever the hell we want, as long as I want to do it, and it doesn't matter if you don't want to do it, or making people feel safe. Now, Senator Chris Murphy, you'll know him. He's from Connecticut, so he has been, since Newtown, he's just been at the forefront of trying to pass real gun control legislation and another assault weapons ban. And now this was a little while, this was on Sunday. So he was on with, I don't know, I think he was on, CNN State of the Union. And he was being asked about the votes needed to pass a federal assault-style weapons ban that President Biden would love to pass. I'll play a little bit of this interview because it's disappointing. It's disappointing that we probably won't be able to get something that we had passed before, passed now.
Virginia and Colorado, where these mass shootings took place over the last 10 days or so, they already have red flag laws in place, and they did not prevent those mass shootings.
I think it's important to know that the bill that we passed is being implemented as we speak, but it takes a little while for these big, complicated laws to be put into place.
But these two states already had. They didn't need the incentive.
Correct. Now, what we've, I think, learned in Colorado is that the county in which this shooting happened is a so-called Second Amendment sanctuary state. And I think the country's going to have to learn about what's going on in this country. The majority of counties in this country have declared that they are not going to enforce state and federal gun laws. They have decided that they are going to essentially refuse to implement laws that are on the books. That is a growing problem in this country. And I think we're going to have a conversation about that in the United States Senate. Do we want to continue to supply funding to law enforcement in counties that refuse to implement state and federal gun laws? Red flag laws are wildly popular, right? You're just temporarily taking guns away from people that...
So you want to withhold money for law enforcement?
I think we have to have a conversation about whether we can continue to fund law enforcement in states where they are refusing to implement these gun laws. I'll talk to my colleagues about what our approach should be to this problem, but 60% of counties in this country are refusing to implement the nation's gun laws. We've got to do something about that.
Well, yeah, because it sends a message to other places that this is okay. Now, there's 19 states. 19 states have red flag laws. But apparently, if you look at the research, they're only effective, like Senator Chris Murphy was saying, if they're enforced. 12.5 states and the District of Columbia passed red flag laws that would allow, like Kim has mentioned, judges to order guns to be removed from people considered to be dangerous to themselves or others. But they're being ignored because a lot of people wonder if some people don't like them. Some question if they even work. The Associated Press was recently able to calculate the number of times red flag laws might have been used, but weren't. In Chicago, according to since 2020, there have been 8,500 shootings, resulting in 1,800 deaths since 2020. Red flag laws were used there just 4 times. In New Mexico, there have been 600 gun homicides since 2020. Red flag laws were used 8 times. In Massachusetts, where there have been around 300 fatal shootings since 2020, not 2000. These are all from 2020. Officials have used red flag laws 12 times. The AP analysis found many U.S. states barely use the red flag laws, touted as the most powerful tool to stop gun violence before it happens. It's blamed on a lack of awareness of the laws and resistance by some authorities to enforce them, even as shootings and gun deaths soar. What do you think it is? Do you think that people have a hard time making that phone call? And I mentioned this when we talked about red flags laws before. There is a difference between having a red flag law and people feeling empowered to use it.
I think people don't know about it. I think if you ask most people what a red flag law is, they won't be able to tell you. And most people don't understand that if you hear someone say something, that you can call the police and have it checked out and have them make sure that person doesn't have guns. Easy peasy. And yeah, someone asked, do you just call your local police department? Yes, you do. And is it hard? Would it be hard, say, if my 13-year-old child was the one making threats, to then call the police? But think of the worst situation. Do you want to be the mom whose kid kills half the
Right.
school? No, you don't. And after every mass shooting, we always say, gosh, we just have mental health problems in this country.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be, we have to do better on the mental health scale. Well, here's a moment where you get people the help they need, because once they open fire, they're going to jail for a long time.
Yeah.
But if you make the phone call and you know the red flag law exists, they can get the help they need. You can make sure they don't hurt anyone, so they then can go on to have the option to get some medication to get their life back on track. It's
Yeah.
really good all the way around. You prevent people from being hurt and you help the person get help. I've heard people say, well, red flag laws are horrible because they take away someone's rights. What
Right.
about their right to choose and everything? But I feel like, well, what about the rights of the people they're at work with, or they're at school with, or all the rights of the people that are at risk? They have rights too. And clearly in America, we're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
We're doing it wrong. And that doesn't mean guns should be taken away forever for everyone. But it does mean we're doing it wrong, and we have to reevaluate, because how many more shootings can we have until we look at what we're doing and say, all right, I know that your arms are around the Second Amendment, and I know that, all these things, but can we at least come together and make an agreement so we prevent this massive loss of life? Can we do that for each other? I think you're frozen, Nikki. I don't hear what you're saying. I think she froze up. Let me check some texts because I don't hear her. So either I'm gone or she's gone. I don't know what the situation is. But Eric Kennedy writes, yeah, mental health problems and take no action to fund mental health programs. I agree. Better mental health. I mean, seriously, Eric, we need to sit down and look at everything. Is it just red flag laws that work? No, it's more than that. So it makes complete sense to me to reevaluate everything that we're doing. Mo Direct writing, an open line of communication must be established, and one is fearful of retribution, and verifiable methods to enact needs to be in place. Your wording is cluttered to me, Mo, but I thank you for the message. I see what you're trying to say there. And that, yeah, it would make sense that someone would be fearful of retribution if they call the police, but I don't think they have to tell the person who called necessarily. And I would honestly be more fearful if I had to go to work every day with someone who I knew was a real threat and a real risk and could hurt anybody with me. At some point, you've got to take the step to make the call. I just feel like, oh, Mo says I am here. Good. Glad I'm not talking to myself as Nikki logs back in. Even Randy, I kind of get in the chat that you fall onto the more conservative side of things. And Randy saying, yeah, red flag laws are needed. So Randy, if you and I can put our heads together and at least come to that agreement, I think that we have some hope, right? Because we know that what we're doing isn't working. And what do they say? I'll admit it. I learned it in Weight Watchers. They say, if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten. Yeah. Well, we're doing what we've always done. And then we're surprised every time another school shooting happens. And oh, isn't that so sad? And oh, isn't that so horrible? And then we play the broadcast about, the parent identifying a child only by their shoes that they had colored. Well, because we're doing the same thing over and over again, and we're not making any changes. It's beating our head against a wall. And I'm so, you can hear it, you guys. I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated by the fact that we make zero changes at all. It moves me to tears. It's so frustrating. God, if I could just snap my fingers and fix it, I would. Nick writing, not for the country, for the world. Hit the brakes for 2 weeks, saved 6 million lives. In my head, that disruption would have been much preferred to what we've seen for 3 years. I must have missed your first text, Nick, because I'm not sure about putting the brakes on what. I'm kind of scrolling back trying to find out. Anyway, finally, my friend Nikki has returned.
I am back. Thank you so much. I don't know what happened there, but I apologize for that. So are we still talking guns? Or are we talking COVID?
Oh, we're talking guns. Okay, sorry. You know me, I got off on my bandwagon. Yeah,
no,
Kim
no,
says
I'm
it
glad.
right.
No, I'm glad.
Kim brought up the real saying, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yeah,
and I was
exactly.
saying, yeah, we're doing the same thing over and over again, and somehow we expect that there's not going to be another mass shooting, and it's
Well,
not
there's going to
true.
be. Well,
Right.
and that's what I wanted to bring up was this op-ed that was written. And let me just bring it up real quickly because it was in reaction to that stupid shooting over a Monopoly game. Remember? And so you guys have heard about this. So apparently a family is playing in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This was like the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. They're playing Monopoly. A man got into an argument with his stepfather. It escalated. They flipped the Monopoly board and knocked over the furniture before continuing the fight outside. And then one of the guys pulls out a gun and starts shooting at these people running down the street. Now, am I saying that red flag laws would have caught this? I don't know what the guy's mental state was before this. But what I am saying is when there's so many guns in this country, and this was the point I was trying to make before I glitched out, there's so many guns. And so that's why I would love an assault weapons ban. I would love to get a lot of these assault style weapons off of the streets because we have so many and they're so accessible to people. While at the same time, we seem to really agree that we have a mental health crisis in this country. So until we get that together, why don't we reduce the number of guns that we have accessible to people? If you're a responsible gun owner, you'll continue to be a responsible gun owner. And I've said this before. I don't know why responsible gun owners don't back more restrictions on other people because it makes the rest of you guys look like you're all together. You know, like I'm a responsible gun owner. I keep my not me personally, but if I was a responsible gun owner, I'd have it in this safe. I'd have, bullets separated from it. I'd have all of these things. I'd have the training. I know how to use it. I'd keep it away from people that can't have it. Right? That's responsible. Then you hear people, leaving their guns lying around, buying their kid that's dark and depressed a gun for their birthday. Right? Those are the things.
No. Yeah.
Those are the problems that we have in this country. Yeah, Amy, 121 guns for every 100 people. It's too much. There are more guns than people in this country. And that needs to stop. And I don't know how we stop it. I really don't. I don't know because what's not going to happen is this. This is what's not going to happen. I'm taking your gun. I don't care what fear mongering happens on the right or from gun nuts. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is we have to embolden people either through, tragedy or through incentives or something to turn in guns that they don't need. Melt them down, do something else, get a different hobby. But there was this article, and this was in the Sacramento Bee, actually. And I just want to read you the end of it. The trouble is that in a nation with more firearms than people, the deadliest weapon on hand is not always, and this is talking about the Monopoly shooting, not always a die-cast miniature Scottish Terrier. It certainly wasn't in Tulsa, where the alleged shooter did go directly to jail, despite failing to hurt anyone. Such a fortunate outcome is down to a roll of the dice as long as guns are available to settle any given dispute in the worst way imaginable. On Sunday, for example, less than a week after the mass shooting at a Walmart in Chesapeake, Virginia, a Walmart customer was shot in the parking lot of a store in upstate New York. On the same day, a Walmart employee was shot in a store in Tennessee. And the next day, courts were grappling with a 2019 shooting that left 2 dead at a Mississippi Walmart and another that killed 23 at a Texas Walmart. In the context of a single week in the life of our country, that is, the Walmart shooting was really just a Walmart shooting.
Mm-hmm.
All these shootings are just threads of a violent tapestry that defies description, let alone comprehension. And it was so well written. Yes.
Yesterday, I'm going to bring it up my phone or my email. I got this message from the Petaluma City School District. And it said there has been a threat at Petaluma Junior High School.
Oh, no.
And it was a threat of violence at Petaluma High School. This afternoon, it was reported that a student at Petaluma Junior High School who was wearing a black or gray hoodie sweatshirt told another student in the bathroom that he was, quote, going to bring a gun to school tomorrow, end quote. We're working in collaboration with the police, blah, 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 ongoing investigation, counseling if you need it, whatever. But school's going on as normal today. So this message is sent out last night that the kid's supposed to bring a school gun, telling someone else he's going to bring a gun to school today. Is he really? No one knows. Could it be some type of hoax? Maybe. Could it be for real? Yeah. So what do you I was talking to friends that have children that go to that school. Do
Right.
you keep your kid home from Petaluma Junior High School today? Just for the possibility? And why do we as parents even have to think about that? There's these all
Yeah.
the moms are talking last night, and are you going to send your kid to school? I don't know. Are you going to send your kid to school? Why do we even have to have this conversation about violence at
Yes.
school and threats? And here we are. It's stressful for the parents. Imagine if you sent your kid to school today. You're on pins and needles all day. Did I make the right choice? But if
Yeah.
you don't, then are you kind of falling into this, your kid loses a day of school and you're falling into this, you know, this
Well, I mean,
hoax
then you never send your kid out of the house because there's
Right.
guns all over the place. It
That's
can
right.
happen anywhere. So
Yeah.
you sent your kid to school, I'm assuming.
Well, my child doesn't go there, but it could
Oh,
have
it was a
happened at
different.
my
Oh, yeah,
child's
I see what.
school.
Yeah, that's right.
This was the big junior high, and my child goes to kind of a specialty junior high. But yeah, so, you know,
What would you have done if your kid went to that school?
home from school. Home.
Really? You would have kept her home?
And my friends decided to send. I
I would
wouldn't
have
take
sent.
I
I would
don't
have
take
sent.
I'm not taking the risk.
Well, you do every day. You do every day. You know that, right?
Yeah,
And that's the
every day.
sad part. Every
Yeah.
day it could happen. And that's and so it's one of those questions where, of course, if you did send your kid to school and it did actually happen,
Yeah,
I mean, you
never
would
forgive.
die. You would
I would
never forgive
never
yourself, of
forgive
course.
myself. When I
But
had advanced knowledge that something just the mere inkling of a might. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
that's a
you're right.
hard one. That's a hard one because at the
Isn't
other
it?
side, I don't want to tell my kid like they're going to be like, "Why am I not going to school? And my friends are going to school." Oh, because there was a gun threat. Then what are you doing to their reality? Is that the way to approach every single moment? Because the truth of the matter is, like we're talking about, you
Mhm.
can go into a Walmart
Right.
or a Target and it could happen there. And it's sad that I think about that more often than I ever have before, simply because of all of these shootings that we see constantly in the news.
Yeah.
I think about it all the time. If someone's acting weird, it's in the back of my mind.
Well, some acting a little squirrely. It's funny, well, not funny, haha, that Kim writes, "There was a bomb threat at Tam High in Mill Valley this morning." It's gotten to be, pardon, an everyday thing these days. Yeah, yeah, just
Yeah.
like Nikki was saying.
It's one of those things where and then you have to make a decision, a person and it really then does become a personal decision of do I give into my fear? And it's a valid fear. I'm not saying you're being irrational. It's a valid fear. But do I give into it? Or do I live my life knowing that it can happen at any moment? I mean, I drive my car every day, even though I know accidents happen every day. So you have to decide what you're going to do.
Oh god, we're both going down for the count. But in this case, I gotta say, I would have had her stay home. I don't know, you guys. What would you do? What's your decision? Tell me in the chat. You know there's a just a threat. They don't know who the kid is. Someone said they're bringing a gun. Do you keep your kid home? Do you know that the likelihood that it's going to happen is really low? So you just go ahead and move forward with life as normal? What do you do? Murphy writes, "Yeah, it's such a nightmare. Threatened school shootings are directly affecting the most important people in our lives. Our number one job is to keep them safe." Murphy, once again, sister, you are right on the money. That is my number one job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mindy Lee
Mindy.
writes in keeping my kid home. Yeah. So what does that conversation sound like though, Mindy? And Kim, we say, well, there was a threat and I'm keeping you home to be safe. What happens the next day if another kid says it or writes it in? Because we know that there's a lot of these hoax
Mhm.
happening as well. So how do you balance those as a parent? Because if it keeps happening, at some point you're just gonna have to send your kid in. And
And
I don't
here's the
know.
sad
I don't know if
what's
I could do
sad,
it.
Mo, because I was wishing that I had purchased the bulletproof backpack so I could drive to my friend's house and give it to her so her
Oh,
kids could wear it to school.
no,
That's
you can't
right.
do that either because the truth of the matter is no kid is wearing their backpack
Yeah.
while school's going on. I
Well,
mean,
they
they're
are
usually at
if
their
I know
desk.
there's a threat, they're keeping it with
They're
them all day long.
well, yeah, but I mean, think about it. If there's a school shooter, your kid's probably sitting at a desk. They do not have their backpack on. I mean, it's it's one of those things where you think it's going to make your kid feel safer, but I worry. This is my worry. And honestly, I would never knock you for keeping your kid home, and I would
Yeah.
seriously consider it. But My worry is that this is just going to continue to perpetuate a mental health crisis amongst our kids. So now they don't ever feel safe. It's just, it's a hard thing to balance. I would have to have the conversation, and I talk to my kids about it. They do those campus shooter drills, which
The
are
drills,
ridiculous.
yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, because you're also obviously, if it's a school shooter and a student, training that person also on what the kids are going to be doing, right? So it's, I don't know, it's a hard, sad world we live in, and it's really simply because we have glorified this sort of weapon in this country, that kids feel like, well, one, obviously the mental health crisis, and two, they have such access to these weapons that it's become the weapon of choice. And it's sad, and but I don't see anything changing. I do think it's insane, and absolutely the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, just like this conversation. Kim,
I
I feel like
know.
we've had this
Oh,
this
we have.
exact conversation
Yeah.
on air, either at
It's not
Station
our
X.
first rodeo.
It is
That's
not the
right.
first time that we've had this, and many of you that have learned, we're saying the same thing that we always have, and I don't know what it's going to take. And we'll say the same thing we always say: if it didn't happen after Newtown, then it was never going to happen, and it hasn't, and it hasn't. So to end this on not the most terrible note, educate yourself about red flag warnings, like Kim has been doing and has been promoting as well. Educate that, share that information with people. It is a tool that we have that people need to feel empowered to use. Because if you know somebody that's going through a crisis, you can avert a bigger tragedy if you kind of step in, notify the authorities. It's a simple Google search. There's a website for it. And you can just get the ball rolling on something. And if they're okay, then they'll get their guns back eventually. And if they're not, they're going to get the help they need, or they're going to go to jail or prison, but people won't die. And that is the goal, is to prevent another needless death. And I hope that we can actually get it together. I really do. Okay, we have a lot that I wanted to get into today. So you tell me, Kim, what would you rather talk about? Would you rather talk about PETA being pissed off, or would you rather get into the whole Will Smith getting a pass following his Daily Show interview? Which one do you like better?
Will Smith for sure.
All right, we'll delve into Will Smith. We might get to PETA. If not, we'll save that for tomorrow, which actually, maybe I'll just save it anyway, because tomorrow we will have I think it'll be Krista Maloney with the San Francisco SPCA, because we're continuing our Rescue DOG on the Nikki Medoro Show on YouTube. So she'll be on, and we'll be highlighting a couple of dogs up for adoption. And I bet they won't be the dog that won Best in Show. And so we'll talk about that tomorrow. So I'll save that.
Okay.
We'll get into the Will Smith, and you tell me in the chat room, do you think that Will Smith has apologized enough, apologized appropriately? And do you think he's getting a pass because he's black over the slap, even though he slapped a black man, from Hollywood? And should he be in another movie? And will you go watch it? So you guys tell me all of that in the chat right after the news with Kim McAllister.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Job openings dropped in October, that according to the Labor Department. That put the number at 10.3 million. It is slightly below expectations. And as we reported earlier, singer-songwriter Christine McVie has died at the age of 79. Of course, she was a key contributor to Fleetwood Mac's multi-platinum success during the late 70s. In a statement, her family said she passed away peacefully this morning after a short illness. President Biden laying out new initiatives and investments to support tribal nations. While speaking at the Department of Interior's Tribal Summit, Biden announcing $135 million in funding to help relocate Native American communities at risk of flooding and other natural disasters, and a request for more than $9 billion in aid to health services. He said he signed a memorandum to improve consultation between federal agencies and tribal nations. One person is injured after an explosion at the Ukrainian embassy in Madrid, Spain. An envelope exploded. It was addressed to the ambassador. The Spanish Ministry of Interior described the victim's injuries, though, as slight. Today's show weatherman Al Roker is now back in the hospital. Reports he fell ill the day after Thanksgiving and was rushed back to the hospital from his home in New York City. It was announced today that Roker will be missing tonight's Rockefeller Center Christmas tree lighting ceremony on NBC. And The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, is returning to his old stomping grounds on Oahu to make some amends. The Black Adam star visited a 7-Eleven over the weekend that he used to frequent as a teenager. In an Instagram post, he admitted he used to steal a king-size Snickers bar on the way to the gym every day because he couldn't afford to buy them at the time. The Rock returned to the same 7-Eleven and bought all the Snickers bars in the store and picked up the tab for some shoppers as well. Johnson left the candy bars at the counter and instructed the cashier to give them to anyone else trying to steal a Snickers.
Wow. I thought that was a great story. I mean, I'm not a thief. I'm not a thief. But I can't imagine the desperation that he needed every day to steal the Snickers. And how do they not ever get caught doing that every single day? But
it might be that, the clerk or the owner of the store realized, you guys, that looks like a really hungry person who's down on his luck.
Cost me one Snicker bar a day. Like,
sometimes you can tell that someone just needs a little something. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, but that's a good story. I like The Rock. I like him more and more. He's not my favorite actor though, but I like that story.
So I mentioned this one on Mark's show, but I'm going to throw it down here as well because San Francisco, a space-aged self-cleaning toilet that was unveiled in the city's Embarcadero Wednesday. It's already broken.
They broke the toilet, the expensive toilet, always the expensive toilet.
Tyler Krelnick, with the design firm Smith Group Architects at the unveiling, said the stainless steel toilet is designed to be durable, but the commode may have not withstood its first self-cleaning cycle. By Friday, just 3 days after being unveiled, the commode appeared to not return to its sitting position after it self-cleaned. The Paris-based company JC Decaux is supplying the toilets and their maintenance for free to the city in exchange for the right to sell advertising on some of the city's kiosks. The new public toilet, one of 25 that will eventually replace the city's older self-cleaning public toilets.
Wow. I mean, whenever you make something too fancy schmancy, right, it always breaks down. It's like sunglasses, right? You always lose the expensive pair. The cheap pair just never. This is a waste of money. It's stupid. And I mean, how many of these are there? Is it just one? How many?
There will be 25, one of 25 that will eventually replace the city's older self-cleaning public toilets.
Well, I think that we shouldn't make any more of them. They're very expensive and obviously break down too easily.
Yeah, it seems they have a problem. Maybe it was a one-time deal, Nikki.
Maybe they needed a poop knife. Have you ever heard of the poop knife?
No.
You don't know what a poop knife is? Anybody in the chat know what a poop knife is?
You're kind of grossing me out with that.
It's exactly what it sounds like. Apparently, now I thought it was a joke, but apparently in some parts of the country, they don't use plungers. They just cut it up.
What?
That's the only way I can describe it without everybody losing their appetite. Yeah. Anybody in the chat? It's actually somebody has marketed this now. They're selling one, which people would just have a knife, like in the bathroom in the drawer, and yeah, they would just cut it up. Oh, look, see, Eric knows. Oh dear, I'm not proud that I know. Yep.
So okay, help. So you don't even try the flesh first. You just automatically go straight for the knife.
I think if you have like one that goes from, edge to edge, you just know that you need the knife. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? No, so apparently somebody was sharing a story, and I don't remember if it was on Reddit or something, and they were talking about embarrassing things that you do in your house, and then you find out that other families don't do this. And one person shared a story about how they didn't realize that not every household has a poop knife because they yelled for it. They're like, "Hey, I need the poop knife." And everyone was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And so We don't have one of those in our house.
I cannot imagine doing that. I can't. Maybe my sensitivities are too delicate.
I would never. I'm not getting that close to the bowl. So yeah, that's
and
not
then what
happening.
do you do with the dirty knife? Oh God, no. The knife.
I know. Like, do you just no? Let's not even go there, because then they have to have
a knife somehow makes its way to the kitchen and goes back into the normal supply. No. Never again.
Never
like
again.
Once it's the poop knife, it's always the poop knife.
That's why you don't eat at everybody's house. You don't always eat everybody's food, and you don't eat at everybody's house, because not everybody is as clean as you. So there you go. Oh, stop. I had to get gross there. I love everybody getting gross with me.
On that note, the news is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, you can reach Steve at 888 Tax Deal or online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Yes, indeed. 888 Tax Deal, moskowitzllp.com is a great supporter of the show. While we're talking about support, can you guys click that thumbs up button for us real quickly before the end of the show? We would love to get as many likes on the show, just one thumbs up as possible before the show ends. Loving everybody in the comments and the chats. We have tons of people donating during the super chat, using the super chat feature. I can give some thank yous. We're going to get a bit lighter. Let's transition, shall we? Dora Lopez, a big thank you from us to you for your $9.99 super sticker. We have another $9.99 super sticker from Rosalie. I like that name, Rosalie. Eric Kennedy donating for Nugget in memory of my dog, Jake the dog. Oh, Eric Kennedy with $9.99. Oh, my heart to you and your dog, Jake. We got $1.99 from Anna Marie Matthews. Oh, Anna Marie Matthews Hussey. So you have the same name as the lady in waiting for Queen Elizabeth II that got fired or resigned. Hussey? How do you pronounce it, Anne-Marie? You tell me. Let's see. Jess Martinez, much love from West San Jose. Oh, I've got one of my San Joseers out here. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And of course, let's just give shout outs to everybody. Andrea, sending positivity, wishing your daughter well from Nick. Oh, thank you so much, Nick. And everybody that's been donating in the super chat. It really helps us out. And again, if you want to become a monthly subscriber to our show, please do. Just donate to our Patreon. You dictate the amount, and you can find the link at thenikkimedoroshow.com. That's thenikkimedoroshow.com. And since Nick brought it up, let me just get to it really quickly, because I know a lot of you were listening yesterday, and it was pre-recorded for a specific reason that I shared. And I was with my daughter all day at the hospital. I'm hoping that the time needed won't be as long in the future. They're kind of promising us that it won't take as long. But the announcement that I made is my daughter has Crohn's disease. And I found this out over the last, basically, we've been doing the show for 6 weeks or so, maybe something like that. And basically this diagnosis and all the treatments and everything have been happening in the last 6 weeks. So it's been two major things, leaving Station X, launching the show, and then finding out my daughter's diagnosis. It's tough. It's one of those things, like I'm one of those positive people. I try to be as much as possible and just kind of looking at the positive. And so yesterday was her first infusion treatment, and it went better than I thought, Kim. I was worried that she was going to have to get into a gown and get into a bed, and it was going to be that whole thing. No, it's a room. Anybody that's, if you know anybody that's had chemotherapy, I think the child next to us, simply because they didn't have any hair, might have been going through a chemo treatment.
So if that doesn't make you count your blessings that you're there.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying. Like, we left at the exact same time. They arrived a little bit before us or after us, but when we were leaving, we were all leaving at the exact same time. Little kid, and I'm trying to be grateful that, one, we've caught it. And again, I've learned, and I'm still learning stuff about Crohn's disease. A lot of you have been reaching out and sharing stories and what worked for you and what didn't. The terrible thing about Crohn's disease, besides it being painful, is it really knocks you on your ass, to put it bluntly. You just don't have any energy. All of your energy is your gut just flaming out. And the treatment can be hit or miss. So I'm trying to stay positive that this medicine that they infused her with is going to work and we won't have to try something else. There's side effects with the medicine as well, that aren't the best, that could be, the risks, although they think that it mainly for her age, it should be very rare. But it's just one of those things where as a parent, you don't want your kid to go through anything. My kid's 13 years old. She's a 13-year-old girl. She should be playing with her friends and wondering about dances and all those sorts of things. And she's dealing with this. And so she has another one in 2 weeks. And then we're hoping, keep our fingers crossed, depending on how she reacts and what her labs show, that maybe we could do this once a month. And it's not something that's so intrusive on our lives. I mean, she had to miss school yesterday. She wasn't able to go to school. She was missing school a lot simply because she didn't have the energy and she didn't feel well. So it's a lot of that. And I'll be sharing more as it happens. And I appreciate you guys being on this journey with me, and it will be part of the show. I'm a parent. I'm a mom. She's my first kid. I've never gone through something like this before. I have no experience with chronic illness. None of these things are in my wheelhouse. And so I'll be going through it all at the same time. And, with COVID still going on, we're really masking up more and more because of it. And so so that's what was happening yesterday. And I appreciate all of your guys' well wishes and support. And I said it yesterday, but I'll say it again. It's comforting, although really eye-opening to see how many people either have gone through the same thing or know somebody that's going through the same thing when you share stuff like this. And it makes you not feel as alone, because I think that for my daughter and for myself, we were really feeling alone, and my husband as well, our whole family, about the whole thing. And then you find out that so many people know what you're going through. And I've just been loving the love and support, and I appreciate it. So thanks for letting me, kind of give you guys the update and for reaching out and being a huge support. So that's that. And if you guys have any questions, or if you know anybody, I'll probably, want to learn more about not just chronic illness, but specifically about Crohn's, send it my way,
I will. As a matter of fact, I already have plans to hook you up with, you remember Sherry Brown?
I do.
Yeah, she wants to talk to you.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Well, yeah, again, another person probably that I didn't know was going through certain things and probably has a story to relate. So that's good. All right. I know you, Mark, went into it, but I have my own opinion about the good old Will Smith. Now, when I had COVID, I watched, I think it was on YouTube Red. It was about Will. It's like, I think it was like I Am Will or something like that. And it was about his upbringing and his life as a child. And he was writing this memoir, talking about memoirs. It was really eye-opening. And then watching it, knowing about the slap was really interesting. So at what point does someone just need to be responsible for doing a bad move? Well, he gave his first sit-down interview with the Daily Show's Trevor Noah. Here is what, and I have some sound from it. I'm not going to play the video because YouTube's all cranky about all that kind of stuff. But here he is talking about the slap. And he basically just says, he was out of his mind.
Yeah, that was a horrific night, as you can imagine. There's many nuances and complexities to it, but at the end of the day, I lost it, and I guess what I would say, you just never know what somebody's going through, in the audience right now, you're sitting next to strangers, and somebody's mother died last week, somebody's child is sick.
And so, given what I was just talking about with my kid, I get that, I get you never know what someone's going through. And you would think he'd be high on life, heading to the Oscars, nominated for Best Actor, things like that. But he was going through something. Now, you tell me in the chat room, though, do you think he's getting a pass? Because Megyn Kelly, you'll remember Megyn Kelly. She was on Fox News forever. She has her own show. She was on with this guy, Paul Murray. on his show, kind of reacting to Will Smith's interview with Trevor Noah. Here's a little bit of that exchange.
Will Smith has got another movie out. Don't watch it because he shouldn't be rewarded in any way, shape or form for his behaviour after the Oscars. But we get to see yet another insight into a man desperate to keep making money.
I can't even. Okay, these Hollywood celebrities who think they're something. They're all that in a biscuit. They are drunk on their own wine. And why? Why? Because they can memorize lines and repeat them in a way that's persuasive. Why am I supposed to celebrate you like you're the second coming because you can do that? Well, I don't.
Let me just stop her right there. That is literally what she does too. I mean, she doesn't act, but she does just read lines on her show and whatever. Okay, so let's just go on.
Most people don't. So he gets up there, behaves outrageously at the most lavish, exciting in the Hollywood industry event of the year. And now his apology tour, here's how it should go, Paul. I did something really stupid and cruel, and I'm deeply apologetic for it. I'm sorry. That's all I can tell you. I hope I earn your forgiveness. Period. You know what he's doing? Poor me. He literally went on Trevor Noah, this failing late night comedian show, and said, hurt people, hurt people. Oh my God.
Oh,
no.
Stop it.
No. Why don't you explain to us about his childhood trauma? We don't care. Tell it to Oprah. Shut up.
I mean, what do you think? A little heartless? Or does she have a point?
It's a little heartless. I mean, I do agree that, well, I wouldn't say agree is the right word. I do think that when I watched Will Smith on Trevor Noah, I felt like he's not a person who has come to a place of this is what happened, full acceptance, whatever. I still feel like he is coming from a place of making excuses and feeling uncomfortable about it. He kind of seemed a little shifty in his seat, didn't feel like full acceptance there. You know, when you mess up, and we all do, because no one is perfect, and I don't think you can hold Will Smith to a perfection as well. You can't hold me to perfection or anyone else,
Of
right?
course.
And so we all seem to have this elevated opinion of him that he's not supposed to do any wrong, and that's not the case. But I feel like his continued apology is more like of an image repair, and it was clear that Trevor Noah was on board trying to image repair, trying to help that.
Yeah.
And if you're at a real place of, God, I screwed this up, I did this horrible thing, I'm really sorry about it, and I've really come to find, full circle in my life and have learned a lot about myself, then you're less concerned about the image repair and just more heartfelt talking about it. And he's not at that place.
Well, and also he's promoting a movie,
Right.
Emancipation, which is based on a true story. And so I'm going to play you one more quick clip. I know we're heading towards the end of the show, but he doesn't want the people that are on this very important film, which they're always so important. Everybody's always, but when you're dealing with something like slavery and emancipation and things like that. So this is what Will Smith told Trevor Noah.
These top artists in the world have done some of the best work of their career. Yeah. And the idea that they might be denied because of me is like, oh.
But when I heard that clip, I was like, well, why did they hire him then? Right? Why didn't they replace him if they thought that they were going to be punished or not given Oscar consideration or whatever for the movie? I mean, they made a choice to use Will Smith, to continue using Will Smith.
What do you do, though, if you had hired him before the Oscar slap and you're halfway through? I don't know if that's the case, but I would imagine that maybe some of the work had already been done. Do you say, you know what, we're going to cut ties with you, even though that would cost them millions and millions of dollars to do that?
Yeah. I mean, they replaced Kevin Spacey on that one movie after the sex assault allegations came out. I'm brain farting on the name. They replaced him with another great actor, and I think the movie did okay. I don't think it was a blockbuster, but yeah, I don't know. I think Will Smith, yes, is he doing a type of apology tour? Yes, I think it's going to follow him for years to come. Should he have just taken a couple of years off? I mean, it hasn't even been a year. it does kind of seem that maybe
he should still be in timeout,
or just figure it out, man. Like, you have issues you need to deal with. Do that. Focus on that. Because if you're still a good actor and if Hollywood wants you, then you can come back and do that. And
I feel like you would not go see a movie because Will Smith was in it after everything that happened.
no.
I don't feel
But I'm
that
not
way
that type
either.
of person anyway. I mean, I'm
No.
not really that type of person as far as, if I know I keep saying that. I just think that Will Smith is a decent actor. I will see him if I want to see the movie. I don't
Right.
see everything that Will Smith is in. He's not that to me.
Mhm.
But if I'm interested in seeing the movie, yeah, I'll see it. Okay, we have time for one more thing because I teased it. I want to do it because I want you to see the picture. So NASA has signed a $57 million contract with a Texas company to build houses on the moon. All right, are you ready for this?
Show me.
There you go. Would you live there?
Wait, it looks like a giant bottle.
So this is a 3D rendering. Obviously, it's not on the moon. It's the one on the left. It's not the spaceship. Oh yeah, you do. Okay, so you're saying it's a bottle on its side.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be kind of cool. I want to see the inside of it. So
you go
one of those
through
dome homes. Here, I'll show it again.
You go through here, the airlock in the front, and then you go into this giant beehive-looking thing.
Yeah, I guess so.
Is that right?
So it's made by Icon. It's known for 3D printed homes and military barracks. It's landed a $57.2 million contract for Project Olympus. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see the details. They're going to work with materials native to the moon. Icon engineers will examine lunar dust and broken rocks to determine their mechanical behavior in simulated lunar gravity. Officials say the findings will inform future lunar construction for critical infrastructure like landing pads, blast shields, and roads.
So they're not building it, they're just looking into if they could build it.
Well, yeah, how they would build it, what materials they would have to use.
So $52 million for the research on whether that's possible. Oh, 57,
yes.
My bad.
Yeah.
So they're going to just go up and check the stuff up there to see if they can build anything out of it. And that's going to cost $57 million. Do that?
Well, this will support the effort to develop space-based construction to support exploration of the moon and beyond. And the thinking is, I know it might be cool to just live on the moon, but I think this is supposed to be so we can stay here so we don't have to go all the way back to Earth. That could be like a launching pad for astronauts to go. I'm just saying, until we can clean up this planet, can we stop going to other planets?
Can we stop messing up other planets? Right?
Because we're just going to leave trash everywhere. You know that, right? We're just going to trash up the place.
We're going to trash the moon.
Although I wonder if you could just, space is infinite, right? Can you just kind of send off your trash? Would that actually be a way? I don't know.
There's already a lot of space junk floating around, right?
Yes.
There's already a bunch of trash and stuff we don't need and dead satellites and
exactly.
whatever.
Exactly.
But I feel like it's that movie where there's nuclear war in the world and the earth is imploding, but the most important people climb aboard a ship bound for the special moon house as the human race continues.
I don't know. I mean, somebody was asking in the chat, is that taxpayer money? I don't think it's taxpayer money. I think they just landed. But I would assume, well, maybe it is. I mean, maybe from, the Space Force. Isn't that what it's called? Maybe it's getting money from that Space Force. So
Trump's Space Force. That's what he left us with, the Space Force.
The Space Force. So space.com is saying, I'm trying to find where they're getting the money from. No, it's just saying it just landed. Oh, from NASA. So NASA awarded the money. So yeah, there you go. NASA awarded the company Icon $57.2 million. So there you go.
Right.
Would you live on the moon?
No, I wouldn't live on the. Would you live on the moon? No. What's on the moon for you? Nothing's there for you.
Well, there's literally nothing there right now.
If I was a researcher, if I was a space, researcher or some type of scientist, maybe there would be a reason. But there's no people and family and things, and the moon would have to be different.
Yeah, it would have to be already developed. I don't want to go to I don't want to be that initial neighborhood on the moon. I want it to be there's already trees.
It's
or
why
something.
I have
Only
so
there'll be
much
trees,
respect
but-
for the pioneers, the people who set off across America
There you
that were
go.
like, in their wagons looking for a place to live. There's nothing. You land in a spot, looks all right, set up shop, but there's
There you go.
nothing there for you.
No.
I'm never going to be the first one. There's always got to be people before me.
Yeah, to all of you people, I tip my hat. I will not be doing that with you. I
Yeah.
agree with Kim. All right, so tomorrow we'll get a little bit more into real estate. I wasn't able to get to this story about how rich people are, and I'm going to use the word hoarding, although it's not, I mean, they're basically buying up really prime real estate lots, not actual real estate, just the lot, the land. And they're doing zilch with it.
Why?
And so I'll explain to you why. I'll explain to you why tomorrow.
You're going to make me wait?
I'm going to make you wait until tomorrow. And then we'll get into the National Dog Show. I wasn't able to get to this. Okay, well, wait, I have a second. I have to
do.
show it. Oh, I have a second. Here we go. And I know that you did it on Mark's show, but you didn't have the picture. I'm going to see this. Cocaine Bear. So they released the trailer today. I've been talking about this for like a week. The trailer is awesome. I wanted to like take a clip of it, but there's so much foul language in the clip that at least I saw. But this is it's based on a true story. Now, the true story is basic. A lot of cocaine, pounds of cocaine off an airplane, landed. A bear was found dead had ingested all of this cocaine. That's the true part of the story. Now, this movie is based around that and looks hilarious. I am going to see this movie.
This is a cult classic already. Just the
absolutely.
name and the picture, like
How do you not see this movie? Cocaine Bear? I am there.
This movie has gone down in history before it's ever even come out.
Exactly. I mean, lines around the block. I imagine people high on cocaine waiting for Cocaine Bear to start. I have no idea. More plausible than Sharknado. Cocaine Bear happened. Absolutely. Sharknado didn't actually happen. Is it Ray Liotta's last movie?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it his last movie? Because I know he did that. He did a series. I think it was on Apple TV. And I thought that maybe he had died right after production or filming. I don't know if this is his last one, but obviously the last of them, if it is. They already had this as an episode of NCIS. Oh, interesting, Mo. All right. Well, we'll continue to talk about it. Yeah, Nick, let's go see it. Let's just all go see it. We don't have to be high on cocaine. That's not a good thing. Just go see it sober. Let's click that thumbs up before the show ends. We have a big show tomorrow. We'll have Kristen Maloney with the San Francisco SPCA on. We'll be highlighting a couple of dogs that are up for adoption, and we'll tie that into the whole discussion about the best in show being a Frenchie, and is that the wrong thing to do? Go and become a Patreon supporter. I'm going to get a video together regarding some merchandise. I don't have a lot, but I'll be posting a video on Patreon, so everyone that's a Patreon subscriber will get first dibs at seeing and buying that. So just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com to donate to our Patreon and support the show.
So could I have one Mark Thompson show potholder and one Nikki Medoro show potholder?
There you go.
One
I
for
need
each
it.
hand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Possibly that way. Yes.
Yeah.
You tag team it. Get that
That's right.
pot off the stove. Absolutely. So yes, and then join us tomorrow again, noon to 2. Share the show with all of your friends. It really helps us out. We appreciate every one of you in the live chat donating to our super chat. It's amazing. I love you all, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're sprout like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.